My name's Scott Ballina. I'm with Deloitte's Inclusion Center of Excellence, and I have 30 PowerPoint slides to get you through in the next 10 minutes. You're ready? Not really. Rather than telling you about what I've done, I'd rather tell you and introduce myself by telling you who I am. I grew up just outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, to an Italian Catholic family. Dad was a steel worker. Mom was the principal secretary at the high school I went to, and my sister was my best friend. And like many of you, I was a gay kid. And I got into my head that that was wrong. Ooh. And, you know, I thought as a young man that I had figured this out. I had the solution to my gayness. I was going to achieve my way out of gayness. I got great grades. I was on the swim team. I edited the high school yearbook, and that earned me a Navy ROTC scholarship to Penn State University, where I met and then married my wife. So I was running away from myself. And I did that for 7 years while I was in the Navy and served in Bosnia, in the Adriatic during Bosnia and the Persian Gulf. And after 7 years, I decided to leave the Navy and join Deloitte, make a career change. All at the same time, I was struggling with my identity and who I was and not being very authentic with myself or my wife and my family and friends. And after a little bit of time on a therapy couch, I decided to come out to all of them. But the one place I didn't was work. And that was until I had the hardest project of my life. For 3 weeks straight at this client, I worked there every weekend. I ate every meal there. And even one time was there till 3:30 in the morning working on a project. And after that was all said and done, one of my colleagues said, "How did you do it?" And I'm like, what are you talking about? We all did it. How did you work, 100 hours a week and change the name of your boyfriend from he to she when you were answering questions? How did you dodge questions or just turn questions back on the people that were asking them so you didn't have to answer? And that was, a light bulb moment for me, or the teacher knocking on the chalkboard like, "Hey, dummy, this isn't the right way to live your life." And I really made a decision then and there to be more authentic in the workplace. And if I couldn't be out at Deloitte, I was going to go somewhere else. Obviously, and thankfully, I didn't have to do that. But that really started me on a journey to authenticity. And my second marriage, this time to my husband, and a phenomenal stepson that is taking his driver's permit test tomorrow. And I also had the pleasure of working with Christy Smith, Deloitte's managing principal for our Leadership Center for Inclusion, and some research that I got to work on with her called Uncovering Talent. So for those of you that aren't familiar with the term, covering is a concept where we hide or downplay an aspect of ourselves, much like I did, to fit in, to blend into the mainstream. Often this can be at tremendous personal expense and toll. So what did we find? 2 out of every 3 people are covering at work. Nearly 66% of us are hiding some aspect of ourselves from our coworkers, our colleagues, our clients, and our customers just to fit in. Not surprising to many of you, lesbian, gay, and bisexuals lead the way with covering, which is terrible, but 83% of us report that we cover at work. And you may ask, Scott, you forgot the T. I didn't. The culture of passing within the transgender community was so hard to penetrate, even with outreach to that specific community, we couldn't even get a statistically relevant sample for our research. We found that 81% of folks with disabilities hide their disability at work, and 79% of Black employees cover as well. The most surprising, however, was straight white men. 45% of straight white men uncovering some aspect of themselves to their coworkers. This was a tremendous revelation to me. Uncovering talent had given us a way to think and feel about inclusion that was truly inclusive. It didn't divide us into buckets of gender or race or sexual orientation, but gave us a shared experience to unite around. My favorite part of the research was the stories we collected. As you can tell, I probably like to tell a story or two. They are the most impactful to me and sometimes the most heartbreaking. We heard dozens of stories from gay men and women that would change the way they act, the way they talk, the way they dress, even who they'd be willing to associate with in the workplace to hide their identities. We heard a story from a senior executive that had a debilitating back issue and needed to be using a cane. And he would walk around every day for 8 or 10 hours in excruciating pain without his cane so that he wouldn't appear less capable or less powerful to his coworkers. The number one feedback we got was from Black women and the tremendous amount of time and expense they do straightening their hair to look more professional. Stories of mothers who felt inhibited about putting pictures of their children on their desks because it would give the perception that they're less committed to their work or their employer. And lastly, and really the most heartbreaking for me, stories from veterans, men and women who have served our country in a time of war that won't disclose their veteran status because of stigma around PTSD or the false perception that they may be overly strident or authoritarian in a very collaborative work environment. Much like I did, these people end up not only working their jobs, but they're also working their identities. They're taking time and energy away from hiding some aspect of themselves rather than being engaged, productive, passionate about what they do. And if they are engaged, productive, and passionate, how much more could they be if they were truly themselves for 8, 10, 12 hours a day in the workplace? Our research also showed that these people that were exhibiting the covering behavior had lower perceptions that they had the ability to advance within their organizations and were less committed to those organizations, i.e. more likely to leave. So not only is this behavior a bad thing for us, but it's bad business. So you may ask, what can I do? So I would submit to you that we must change how we talk about ourselves, and our organizations must change so that we can be our authentic selves in the workplace. I would like each of you to go back to your workplaces. Talk about your boyfriends, your girlfriends, your husbands, wives, partners. Even if you've gone through a gender transition, talk about it. Share your story with your coworkers. I think we can really create cultures of inclusion and uncovering where we can all be passionate, connected to each other, and engaged in our workplaces. Thank you so much. If you want more info, check us out.